What's up, YouTube? So it's finally time for the long-awaited Blue Kayn guide. Well, it's a bit late. I mean, the split ends in like 2 weeks, but all good. Don't think much will change in the new split. So for those who don't know me though, I peaked 1.2 KLP on EU West Season 13, only Blue Kayn. Season 14, I took my Kayn to Korea during the Profane era, before they nerfed it, on like Kayn with his Q interaction. And I peaked 1 KLP in 23 days, which is pretty decent, I think. And most importantly, after the Profane changes, I made an account like very recently, and I took it from like unranked to random master 800 LP, which is like 4 to 5 wins away from challenger with 65% win rate before it got permanently banned. Unlucky. So basically, I kind of found a way to make Blue Kayn work even without Profane, even when he's legit 47% win rate, and that's what I'm gonna be showing in this guide basically.
We shall see.
Alright, so the first and foremost thing is the most basic thing, which is summoner spells, and that would simply be just flash plus smite. Personally, I'd recommend you to go that every single game. Now, some people ask, is Ghost viable? Is Ignite viable? Most certainly they are. I've tried both. There are even like some challenger like Kayn OTPs that play Ghost every single game, like Ghost Smite. You rarely see Ignite. There was a while back where there was a teleport meta, but they changed the way teleport works, so don't worry about that. Ignite and Ghost are viable, but I would definitely recommend Flash every game, simply for the like Flash WQ surprise factor. Legit, the enemy has like no time to react to your combo as Blue Kayn with that. Ghost can be useful. Ignite can help you early game, but after that it's pretty much useless. So yeah, I would say just stick to Flash. Okay, as for the rune setup, this is like your 80% rune setup standard page for Blue Kayn, you can say. You go this page 80% of the time, basically. You have two scenarios where you can slightly adapt it, which is if you need an early game Serpents against like 3+ shielders, you go Ultimate Hunter then, instead of Treasure, to make up for the fact that you're not going to be able to buy Axiom Arc, which is your core second item, and you're going to go Serpents then, instead, and you'll still get the Ult Haste from Ultimate Hunter, which is the whole purpose. And there's another scenario where the enemy team comp is a slightly tanky. You'll need the front-to-back early game Eclipse, and you will need second item max damage rather than Axiom. So you'll also sit with Ultimate Hunter. Now there is a third ruin page, which is like very rare to use, to be honest, like maybe 5% of the time. I'll still show it because I personally use it since I play Blue Kayn every single game. Alright, so basically this is the ruin setup. It's very rare, only if you're legit against like 5 melee tanky comp, like let's say Yasuo mid, Nilah AD carry, Naruto support, Malphite top lane, Sejuani jungle. You're still gonna go Blue Kayn because why not? You just go Conk, Triumph. You can alter between Alacrity and Legend Tenacity, and you go Cut Down obviously because they're all like high HP, and you go Sudden Impact into Ultimate Hunter because you'll be going Eclipse into like max damage. You can't build Axiom into such a comp, and damage health. Oh, of course you go Scaling, but this is like very rare. I still wanted to show it just so I can like give all the tech. Alright, as for the items, you always want to go Blue Smite, always Stealth Ward for until around minute 8, then you can swap it for Sweepers, but you always want to start these two no matter what. Your first item choice now, usually you go either Yumos or Hubris. Let me explain how do you choose like which to buy. You legit decide like on spot, like you don't even decide. You might buy Dirk, and then you still don't know which you want to go. So how it works is that, let's say you're in the game, and the game is like too hectic, you're fighting a lot and all of that, and you're buying towards Yomos. Well, they both use very similar build path, and you end up having way too much gold, and you have enough for Hubris, and you have high kill participation. Might as well just buy Hubris and start stacking and go for max damage. And that way you scale better, and well, you can afford it, so why not? Well, in a game where it's going a bit slow, and let's say you died or recalled with exactly enough for Yomos only. Of course, you're not gonna not buy a whole item that gives you insane stats and wait for Hubris, and it can give you insane early tempo. So then you just fully commit to buying Yomos and ignore Hubris. That's how you basically like decide. Both of them are really good. Yomos really insane early spike, really insane mobility, only issue doesn't give you haste. Hubris really good, it's just a bit more expensive, and issue is it doesn't give you mobility, but it gives you haste, which helps you a lot in everything. Farming cooldown, ult cooldown, and it scales really well because, well, it stacks, and the stacks are up for 90 seconds after you get kills. It's actually very useful in farming as well, right? If you get free AD, you're farming so much on the map, so technically you don't have the mobility, but you're farming more on the map, so you're technically faster on the map. They're both really good item starts for like your standard Blue Kayn build. So as for the second core items, usually you want to look for Axiom if you're running Treasure Hunter, and that's your core like second item. Serpents is very situational, but when you need it, you really need to buy it second. So you just go Ultimate Hunter and buy it and just ignore Axiom Arc the whole game. You'd end up not buying Axiom. Now, third item spike in the game, always it's best to go Cyrilda's, because by then everyone has very high armor and you deny so much by buying penetration. But in a very rare case, you can buy Edge of Night before like buying Cyrilda's and you just delay Cyrilda's to fourth. But that's very rare and it has to be worth. Let's say you're against like legit, I don't know, Skarner, like high CC team, right? Edge of Night would be very useful in that case, and you can go a third just for like protection. Otherwise, you always want to go Cyrilda's third for max damage. And as for Maw and GA usually is best to buy last because you already have your damage. Getting that revive late game is very useful. Maw, you can buy it like sometimes last instead of GA against like very heavy AP teams. But sometimes after buying your core 3 items, like let's say Yomo's, Axiom, Cyrilda's, have enough damage. Enemy team has like, let's say Fed Evelyn, Fed Mage mid laner, and the only win con is their AP champs. So you can just simply buy Maw 4th and survive through that and like 1v9. If you don't need Maw, you can simply just buy a flex lethality item, which is either Edge of Night or Serpents, supposedly if you didn't buy Serpents early, and you go last item GA. Now, as for the Eclipse start, which is not very common, you go at like 20% of the games. It's a bit different. So you still want to go your standard setup, right? Like you go Ultimate Hunter, you just don't build Axiom, you go Blue Smite, you go Stealth Ward, same stuff. You just go Eclipse first. Now, I put the Green Smite here just for the rare case if you're against like 5 melees and you want to go Conk. It's very useful to get a bit tanky from the shield with that, plus Eclipse. But that's like very rare. Even when you go Eclipse, you still go Blue Smite. You want to look for early Eclipse. When you're building into it, make sure you go Pickaxe, Long Swords. Try to avoid building Warhammer. This is like such a bait. Like you sit on 2 Long Swords and you pay 400 extra gold for like 10 haste. That's such a waste. I'd rather buy an extra longsword. Make sure you don't mess up the build path. And as for this core second item with this build, is basically max damage. These are like the highest 2-second lethality item choices. Now I know Profane is like, what? Like how are you even building that after the interaction changes? Generally I'd prefer to just go Opportunity. It's really cheap. Same as Eclipse, they're really both cheap. High tempo, it's consistent, right? Profane is kind of inconvenient with like usage after the changes. But going Profane is viable in this build. It's the only situation where it's actually viable. But I would recommend you to only go it if they're extremely tanky and you know you will need that extra bit of damage casting Profane in between autos. Now, the difference in this build is that you don't go Cyrilda's because Cyrilda's scales with lethality. Eclipse doesn't give lethality. Going Cyrilda's third would be kind of a waste. And generally when you're going this build, the enemy team is kind of tanky or stacking armor, so getting like higher armor penetration is more value. So going LDR here is actually like pretty good. And if you want more damage with LDR, Collector is very good and the execution passive is really good against like tanky teams. Plus it gives you crit, which, well, you're gonna be dropping some autos against the tanky team and they both give crit, so they synergize quite a bit. But don't like obsess too much over Collector. If you need like a Maw situation, you can go it over that. If you need Edge of Night, you can go it over Collector. And oh, I forgot to add Edge of Night, my bad. And yeah, GA is like core last for like both item builds. So yeah, that's it for the build though. Alright, as for the ability skilling order, you want to max Q for the first clear, second so you can heal up a bit, W third. Now many people put 2 points on Q for like faster clear, but I wouldn't recommend that because my whole playstyle is about like adapting to looking at the map, and you can potentially look to counter gank, counter invade early fights, so you kind of want to have all your abilities up. And then you put 3 points in Q, which is the 4th and 5th, and then you fully max W. Of course, you max ult in between, level 6, level 11, level 6. And then you finish off maxing Q after you fully finish W, and of course, E is the last. Alright, as for the early game, it's a bit too detailed. I'll try to summarize it as best as I can. So initially when the game starts, the first thing you want to think about is what kind of enemy jungle matchup you're dealing with. If you're dealing with an aggressive invader like Kindred, Elise, Graves, and such, what I usually always do, and this is like very, very useful to do, is I wait here, which is the opposite side of where I want to start to, and I wait until like 1:15 and I drop this ward here. Now, why do you do this? Because this is more useful than warding enemy jungle. Because let's say you warded red, right? And you saw her starting red. Okay, sure, nice. You can track that. She started red. But after that, you have no idea where she went to. She could go to Krugs. You would assume she's going to do Krugs and Raptors. And then she goes to Krugs and never shows. She can walk through bot, invade you bot side. And she's a strong invading jungler. You can also do that if she does red into Raptors. You have no vision here. You have no idea if she walked here as well, right? But this... most likely what they do, even if they start red, even if they start top side, if they want to walk and invade you, they will walk here. And if you get insight that they're invading you, you can instantly, like, let's say you see her here legit after red, and you continue your second camp clear, or like Krugs. After that, you instantly do something about it and instantly go invade her back. Or sometimes you can even, like, if you have like mid bot prio, go and match it. But most likely you'll be splitting map. You're kind of forced to. Now, that's the first thing you want to like focus on. The second thing is, which lane do you want to path to? Now, most games you want to path to bot lane due to the fact that it's mostly your win con. Most bot lanes are perma fighting. It's free. You want to be able to match the enemy jungler because most junglers play for bot lane. There's a very rare case where you play for top lane. In case, let's say, like, I don't know, both top laners are like Riven, Renekton. Both of them have Ignite. You have like a very safe bot lane like this. Yumizeri, you can path to top lane in that case. But in this game, of course, I'm not going to path to Swain with Flash TP against a Vayne. I definitely want to cover for my bot lane, so I decided to path to bot. Alright, so the second type of scenario of like where do you want to ward is basically when you know that the enemy jungler is either going to full clear or look for early ganks. In this case, Volibear, well, he usually does 3 camp into gank or invade, right? So in this game, I wanted to know where he starts so I can like ping my team and predict where he can gank so we can like do something about that. I see him here on Raptors, and because of that, after we finish the 3 camp clear, what happens is that, well, I'm done with my clear, so my mid laner should know that I'm done with my clear. Look at me. I'm pinging River because I know that he will most likely go for a gank. But unfortunately here, my mid laner oversteps. Oh, guess what? He's dead, right? Well, I still did my job. I tracked it for him. I legit gave him vision. I pinged him. Even if I tried to do anything here, I can't like counter gank that. It's legit impossible. Well, that's like the other scenario of where do you want to ward. But you just need to differentiate between the matchup, right? Whether it's a full clear or early gank type of jungler or an invader. And based on that, you decide where to ward. Now, another tip I can give you is that when you're like farming, always look to hover laners with your E, right? This is why most of the time while I'm farming in the jungle, you would see my E up. Even though it could like save me a couple of seconds of faster clear, which is to be able to, like, for example, while I'm farming Krugs, I'm kind of kiting them towards my bot lane and perma looking at my bot lane in case Vi comes and forces anything. I can instantly use my E and counter that. So this is a tip I can give you. Another thing is what I'm doing right now, even though I'm wasting a bit of time waiting my CD, I'm avoiding walking through Tribush here to avoid vision because I'm going to use these walls, which is... I'm gonna show in a picture right now, like the best walls to look for ganks. Here, Unlucky Vi was here, but if she wasn't, I was just gonna go over the Tribush, over to here, and get the best flank angle. They will legit have to either burn flash or die, right? Instead of walking in Tribush, where it's most likely warded, they will just back off. I'll get spotted, my whole tempo's fucked. It's kind of GG. And I'd always recommend you to hop over walls rather than walk through areas that can be warded, which is most likely the Tribushes, right? Kinda wanna avoid these. Now, you don't always like avoid them, right? If you're like, if a fight is like happening around here, you can just simply use your E from this wall, right? You don't have to go all the way around. But like that's generally in the case where like they're in the middle of the lane, it's early game, it's warded, you wanna get away from the flank. Alright, finally getting to the fun part, which is mid to late game, where you have form and you're confused on like how to play the game, what to do on the map. You have like a couple of things that you can do with Blue Kayn mid to late game. You can play on for side picks for tier 2, hovering your side laner, which is usually your top or mid, looking to perma dive or get picks on the side. Like here, for example, I saw Twisted Fate on the side alone, just went for him. Sometimes you can tell your laner to just push lane and you're perma hovering him here and Tribush, or looking to dive tier 2, right? If the enemy team is 4-man mid, pressuring something, you just kill by diving, get tier 2, which is huge value. And another thing you want to do like in mid to late game fights is that sometimes you simply have to wait your team's CC go in. Sometimes you can simply flash WQ on the carry. Sometimes the enemy is clumped in a small area, you simply flash on top of them. it's really not that like hard to play the game in my opinion the moment you get form. Of course there are certain like mechanics and scenarios that you need to know, but it's not that like difficult or detailed as much as early game. Early game on blue Kayn is like the hardest and most important part. If you don't fuck it up, you're chilling. The best advice I can give you when you're playing blue Kayn is avoiding vision and getting good flank angles like what I'm doing right now. This way you can like always get behind them without even like them knowing or noticing, and before they even react you can like instantly one-shot them and get a free pick. And this is like your whole purpose as an assassin basically. Mid to late game there's like not much to like talk about. Avoid vision, sneak and camp bushes, look for picks on the side. Sometimes you look for picks on mid lane if they're overextending. Look for playing around your team's CC or basically AoE in team fights. You can use your flash WQ combo as well. You need to learn how to play team fights slow basically. Sometimes you all in, sometimes you don't. It really depends on the scenario, and yeah. Okay, so lastly, for the matchups, I want to like briefly go over certain matchups just to explain like how does it work. I mean, you can already see the tier list if you want to, right? Hard matchups, easy matchups. It's pretty useful, but I'm gonna explain like how to play some so you can get the general idea. So let's say Bel'Veth, Nidalee, Kindred, Graves, all these early invading matchups, right? Shaco, Elise. You gotta respect them early. You gotta ward opposite of where you want to start. Avoid them cheesing you and invading you and putting you behind early game. You don't even need to get an early lead though. You need to like be able to match them until you get form. After that, like you're good to go. You will outscale them from there. And if you get a slight early lead, you can start matching them even pre-form. But you gotta always respect, right? Even if you get a lead, you gotta still respect that they're strong early aggressive champs. They're good at 1v1s. So yeah, I'd like recommend to play safe until form. Meaning you try to avoid them or avoid like a 3v3 buff rather than AFK farm the whole game. I definitely don't mean you AFK farm the whole game, right? You can play opposite from them. You can only match them if your laners are strong enough to do so, right? As for like matchups that are really easy like Zac, Maokai, and Mumu, usually these tanks, right? You can even invade those, but only in those like free certain tanky matchups. You can legit go for a 3 red camp clear into invading them, or sometimes even like Raptors into invading them, because it's just too free. They're like really easy, but it's only like those rare matchups. Now you have certain matchups that are like not too hard, not too easy, right? Like Evelynn, Echo, Callum, they have like decent clear. Basically those assassin matchups where whoever snowballs gets the lead. In this matchup you just want like full clear, but you kind of want to track them in the jungle and where they're gonna path to, so that you know if you're pathing together down to a lane, you want to know while doing your last camp if you want to even try to contest scuttle or not based on your laner's prio, because you're kind of both equally as strong, but you want to make sure you don't want to lose both scuttles. And in those assassin matchups, basically whoever gets more lead early will snowball so hard. There's literally 10-0, 0-10 type of matchup. You have certain matchups like Karthus, Vi, Brand. I mean, they're a bit different, right? Karthus is not the same as Vi, but in those, you gotta respect, like, Brand and Karthus clear are really, really fast. You gotta keep that in mind. They can legit be invading you on your last camp because of how fast it is. Vi might look for early gank. She might even look for an invade. She might look for a full clear. It's a bit confusing, so you gotta keep everything essentially in your mind. But yeah, generally, like, you're good to go as long as you're making sure you're not getting invaded. You're staying healthy in the jungle. Most of the games, you want to go for full clearing regardless of which matchups you're against. As I told you, in a rare case, you can invade an Amumu or a Zac. Against invading jungle matchups like Kindred, Nidalee, you want to ward opposite. Other than that, you normally full clear. Respect them, fight scuttle if you have prio, if you don't, you don't, and eventually you just match the tempo basically. Not bad, not bad. We're done with the guide. I mean, that's it for the guide. I think I'll be doing another guide in the new split if many things change, but if they don't change or only small stuff change, I can like just update it in the comments. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Shadows touch all.